I wasn't supposed to be there that day. Wrong city, wrong hotel. Just a routine business trip with my boss, until I saw her. She didn't see me, but I saw everything. I followed them, heart pounding, hand shaking, 6 years of marriage crumbling with every step. I heard moaning. Then I did something what any real man would do in my position. What happened next? Let's just say I played it colder than I'd ever played it overseas. And then, I got out. Calm. But the storm was just beginning. I'll tell you this crazy story of betrayal and punishment from the beginning. Let's go. My name's Stefan. I'm 38. Spent a good part of mine in the army. 2 tours overseas. I came back with a few scars, a few habits, and a deep appreciation for quiet mornings and hot coffee. These days, I work private security. Not the mall cop kind. I'm the guy standing 5 feet behind a very rich man making very expensive decisions. He's got fingers in real estate, tech, energy, stuff that makes my head spin. I'm not here to think. I'm here to watch, assess, and react fast if anything goes sideways. It's a good job. Pays well, no uniforms, and he treats me better than most officers ever did. 6 years ago, when this whole mess hadn't even begun to brew, I met Brenda. She was 32 when it ended, but back when we met, she was 26, and honest to God, one of the most beautiful women I'd ever seen in my life. The kind that walks into a room and everybody forgets what they were talking about. She modeled for some lifestyle magazine, the kind you find in airports and dentist offices. She had this aura of flawless skin, curves like they were drawn, lips always a little too shiny. But what really got me? She talked like she knew everything about everyone, like she'd figured life out and was just watching the rest of us catch up. We met at a party. One of those welcome home things my buddy's wife threw after my last deployment. I wasn't gonna go, but I owed the guy a beer, so I showed up. Brenda was there, posing near the fireplace for someone's Instagram. I didn't even say anything cool. Just offered her a drink and said something dumb about the music being too loud. She laughed. We ended up talking for 3 hours. We dated for 6 months. Fast. Real fast. But when you've been living out of a duffel bag in places where you might not wake up the next morning, you don't waste time. I liked her confidence. She liked my calm. By month 7, we were married at City Hall. She wore a white dress, simple, nothing flashy, but she looked like she belonged on a billboard. We bought a house in the suburbs a few months later. Brick front, decent yard, 2 stories, nothing crazy but clean and solid. We split the down payment. Everything we did was 50-50, at least on paper. Mortgage, bills, furniture. I remember the first time we walked into the place after the keys were ours. She twirled in the empty living room, arms stretched out like some movie star. I had never felt so sure about anything in my life. Before we tied the knot, I insisted on a prenup. She didn't like it, said it felt cold, like I didn't trust her. But I told her straight up, the army taught me that trust is earned, and life is unpredictable. I wasn't about to let my future rest on feelings alone. The prenup had a clause, plain and simple. If one of us cheated, the cheater walks away with nothing. No house, no cars, no joint accounts, not even the damn blender. She signed it. With this dramatic eye roll like I just asked her to promise never to eat dessert again. But she signed. Said it didn't matter anyway, because she'd never do something like that. And for a while, it felt like she meant it. Our life looked good from the outside. She kept modeling, getting gigs, flying out for shoots in LA or Miami. I kept working for my boss, flying with him from city to city, sometimes gone for 3 days, sometimes 10. We saw each other in waves. Weekends when our schedules aligned were like little honeymoons. When you're constantly in motion, different hotel room every week, new faces all the time, you start to treat home like a checkpoint, a pit stop. Somewhere to recharge before you're back in the field. And Brenda, well, she became part of that rhythm. Our life was built around absences. Hell, we got used to missing each other. I didn't realize until later how dangerous that was. But back then, I honestly thought we had it figured out. 6 years of marriage. Decent income. No kids yet, but we were thinking about it. Or at least that's what she said when people asked. And so the day came. Started like any other on the job. I wasn't even supposed to be in the city. Originally, I was assigned to shadow a meeting across the state, but the schedule shifted last minute. My boss, a man who treats his calendar like a battlefield, got called to finalize a high-stakes contract in person. He asked me to ride along. Said he needed eyes he trusted in the room and out of it. So I went. Walking into one of those upscale hotels with marble floors. His meeting was upstairs in one of those executive suites. I wasn't expected to join him, just hang around close, keep an eye on the comings and goings. I didn't expect anything out of the ordinary. Not then. It was sometime between 1 and 2 when I looked up, just out of habit. I'd been trained to scan rooms. Even after all these years, it's something I do without thinking. That's when I saw her. Brenda. She was walking across the lobby, arm lightly touching the sleeve of some guy I'd never seen before. She had on a short black skirt, legs bare, heels high and shiny, definitely not the kind of shoes you wear to pick up groceries or meet your girlfriends for coffee. She was laughing at something. The man with her was maybe mid-30s, clean shave. He wore a navy blazer that clung to his frame like he'd sized down to impress someone. I froze. At first, my mind tried to explain it away. Maybe she had a work meeting. Maybe she was here for a photo shoot. But the way she looked at him, the way she leaned in with that too familiar touch, it didn't match anything professional. She didn't see me. I stayed half hidden behind one of the columns by the cafe. I didn't know whether to call her name or turn away. Instead, I told the boss I needed to hit the bathroom and took off in their direction, staying just far enough back not to be noticed. They reached the elevator. I stayed by the hallway corner, pretending to read something on the wall. I watched them step in together. The doors closed. I jogged up the stairs. Quiet. Steady. My boots thudding against polished marble. 6th floor. When I got there, I kept my pace slow. Didn't want to look suspicious to anyone who might be roaming the halls. I turned the corner and, sure enough, spotted them just ahead. They were walking arm in arm. They stopped at a room, number 614. I remember because I repeated it in my head like a mantra. 614. 614. He slid the keycard. She looked over her shoulder, but not in my direction. They both laughed again before slipping inside. The door clicked shut. I just stood there. For a moment, I honestly didn't know what to do. My breathing was shallow, like my body was trying to hold itself still. I didn't want to believe it. Not without being sure. But I had already seen enough. The clothes. The touches. The way they moved together like this wasn't their first time. I turned around and went back down. I didn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't even think straight. The worst part was how normal everything around me seemed. People walking by with suitcases, hotel staff bringing out trays of pastries, couples chatting over lattes. Meanwhile, my life had just started to slip through my fingers, and no one else in that damn lobby had a clue. I watched the clock, checked my phone, tried not to think. I'd been trained to stay calm under pressure, but this was different. This wasn't combat. This was personal. Eventually, my boss ended the meeting, told me about its success. I nodded, made the right noises, but my head was somewhere else entirely. My thoughts were upstairs, behind a closed door, in room 614. I didn't say anything to him right away. Not yet. I needed to be sure of what I saw, needed to let the moment settle. But something inside me had already changed. The man who went up to the 6th floor that day wasn't the same man who came down. Something had cracked, and there was no gluing it back together. Not after that. He looked over at me, probably noticed something was off, but I just said I had to check on something and would meet him back at the car. He nodded and walked off. I turned and made my way to the elevator like I was on autopilot. My jaw was tight, my chest tight. Every step felt like I was walking into something I'd never come back from. 6th floor. Same hallway. Same damn carpet. Same silence, thick like fog. I walked up to room 614 and just stood there. My ears were ringing. My heart was thudding so loud I thought it might give me away. I stepped closer and leaned in. And that's when I heard it. Sounds from inside. Soft at first, then unmistakable. Laughter. Gasping. Moaning. No question what was happening on the other side of that door. I didn't think. I didn't even feel. I just reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, flipped on the camera, and braced my body. Then I lifted my boot and slammed it straight into the door. It wasn't locked with one of those heavy deadbolts, just the basic latch. The door cracked open like cheap plywood. The sound inside stopped instantly. I stepped in and scanned the room. There she was, Brenda, scrambling to grab a blanket off the bed, eyes wide, mouth open, frozen like a deer about to get hit by a semi. The guy next to her was sitting up, half covered, looking like his brain had stopped working. His face had gone pale as milk. For a split second, no one moved. The air in that room was dead silent. And I just kept filming. I didn't shout, didn't ask questions. I just walked in like I owned the place and held the phone steady, getting everything I needed. Brenda was stammering something. Wait, Stefan, I can explain, or maybe it was don't do this. I don't even know. I wasn't listening. Her voice sounded like it was underwater. The guy looked like he was trying to find his clothes without standing up. His pants were tossed on a chair near the corner. His shoes under the window. Wallet, keys, and a wristwatch were sitting right there on the table. I walked over, picked them up, all of it, carried them to the bathroom, lifted the toilet lid, and dropped everything in. Then I flushed. Once. Twice. I didn't even check if they all went down. I didn't care. When I walked out of the bathroom, Brenda was still clutching that blanket like it was her lifeline. She looked terrified, like the real fear had just set in. Her voice was shaking, but I didn't stay long enough to hear what she said. I took one last look at the both of them, his dumb expression, her red face, the mess of sheets, and turned around. Still didn't say a word. I walked out of that room like I was walking out of a funeral. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. The hallway was empty. The silence out there felt even louder now. I made it to the elevator, hit the button, and stared at the numbers as they ticked down. I didn't check my phone. Didn't text anyone. I just stood there, breathing through my teeth, my hands still buzzing from the adrenaline. Down in the lobby, everything was exactly as it had been earlier. Guests chatting. Concierge answering phones. That little piano loop playing over the speakers. But none of it registered. I walked right through it all like I was in a different world. I stepped outside and leaned against a pillar, letting the cool air hit my face. My head was swimming. I should have been shaking with rage or yelling into the sky or something. But instead, I felt empty. Like someone had scooped out my insides and left the shell. I stood there for a few minutes, trying to slow my breathing. Then I pulled out my phone and looked at the photos. Clear shots. Everything I needed. Brenda's face. The guy. The bed. The chaos. I locked the screen and slipped the phone back into my pocket. My boss was standing near the valet stand, finishing a call, giving some final nods like he always does. When he spotted me, he gave a quick half-smile. "You good?" he asked, like he knew something was off. I guess I wasn't hiding it well. I didn't say much, just pulled out my phone and handed it to him. "Take a look," I said. He scrolled through the pictures in silence, one by one. His expression didn't change at first, just that calm business face he always wore. But then his eyes narrowed, and his mouth dropped open a little. "Wait. I know this guy," he muttered, and zoomed in. He stared a bit longer, then looked at me, then back at the screen. "Yep, that's Aaron," he said finally. "Runs the downtown branch for Charlie." "You remember Charlie? The guy from that golf thing last spring?" I nodded. I remembered Charlie. Owned a chain of regional supply stores, dabbled in property and a few other things. I'd been in meetings with him before, mostly as a quiet body in the corner while the real suits talked. My boss let out a sharp breath and handed the phone back to me. He clapped me on the shoulder, firm, not the kind of thing someone does to say it'll be okay, but more like, "I've got this." "I'll make a call," he said, already dialing. I didn't try to listen to the call, but I caught a few phrases. "Not acceptable. My guy. Deal breaker. Handle it now." 5 minutes later, he walked back over. "He's done," he said. "Charlie's pulling him from the branch, transferring him to some backwater office 3 states away. Might as well be Siberia. No promotion, no perks. He won't be climbing the ladder anytime soon." I nodded. It was something. Not everything, but something. "You don't have to work tonight," he added. "Take the rest of the week if you want. Hell, take more." I thought about it. About going home. About walking into that house knowing what I knew, feeling what I felt. "I'll finish the day," I said. "Then I'll go." He didn't argue. Just nodded again and told me to ride back with him. I did. The drive was quiet. When I got to my car, I sat there a while with the engine off. Just thinking. Not really sure what I was supposed to do next. But I knew one thing. I didn't want to see her. Not yet. Maybe not ever again. When I pulled into the driveway, the place looked the same as always. Same garden lights. Same porch swing. Same little wind chime she had insisted on hanging near the front door. But her car was gone. I sat there for a second, just staring at the empty spot where it should have been. I walked inside. The air felt heavier than usual. It smelled like lavender and something sweet, like the perfume she always sprayed in the hallway. I went to our bedroom. The bed was made. I opened the closet and saw her shoes lined up like soldiers. Her coats still hanging, organized by color. I almost laughed. None of it felt real. I went back downstairs, poured myself a glass of water, and sat at the kitchen table. Just sat there, staring out the window at the backyard. For the first time in hours, I felt a little bit of relief. Not peace, not closure, but a kind of space. Space to think. Space to figure out what I was going to do next. I didn't know yet, but I knew what I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to let her talk her way out of this. I wasn't going to let her play the victim, and I sure as hell wasn't going to pretend like nothing happened. That part of me, the trusting, forgiving, hopeful part, was already gone. I didn't wait long to start packing her stuff. I went upstairs, grabbed the big blue suitcase we used for vacations, and started clearing out the closet. Every dress, every pair of jeans, those expensive sweaters she swore she only wore twice, even the fluffy white robe I got her last Christmas. All of it went in. Drawer by drawer, hanger by hanger. I kept it neat, but I didn't fold a damn thing. Her makeup went into a shoebox. Jewelry into another. I didn't care what went with what. I just wanted her out. I grabbed all the framed photos that had just the two of us and pulled them off the walls. The wedding picture? Gone. I didn't smash them. Just shoved them face down in a plastic bin and set it with the rest of her things by the front door. By the time I was done, the sun had started to rise. The house was quiet, cold. I didn't bother turning on the lights. Just sat on the couch with a glass of water and waited. I wasn't tired, but I was drained. Like my body was there, but everything inside had burned out. She showed up a little after 8 a.m. I heard the car before I saw her. She parked like she always did, crooked in the driveway, and came up the walk with her phone in her hand and her sunglasses still on. I didn't open the door for her. I just stood inside, arms crossed, and watched through the side window as she reached for the handle. Then she went into the house. "Stefan," she called. Her voice was shaky. "Can we please talk?" She looked surprised to see me calm. Maybe she expected me to be yelling, or crying, or asking why. She took off her sunglasses, and her eyes were already red. "I didn't know how to come back," she said. "I was scared of what you'd say." "You should have been scared before you walked into that hotel room," I said. She flinched. "It wasn't," she started, but stopped. "I made a mistake. A huge one. I didn't mean for this to happen." "You meant every second of it," I said. "I saw you laughing. I saw the way you touched him." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. "I'm filing for divorce," I told her. My voice was low. "Even when I come back here later today, I don't want your spirit in this house." Her face crumpled. "Please, Stefan, can't we just talk? You've been gone so much, and I got lost in it. I didn't plan it. It just happened." "Save it," I said. "Your stuff's by the door. If it's not out of here in an hour, I'll call someone to move it for you." She looked at me like she didn't recognize who I was. Like the man she married had turned into a stranger. But I wasn't the one who changed. But she began to struggle. "This is our home," she shouted. "And I'm not going anywhere from here." I smiled and silently walked away. But in that moment I decided, "You're not going? Stay? You'll be gone forever anyway." I got in my car. She stood there on the porch, arms hanging at her sides, still trying to form whatever excuse she thought might stick. I didn't give her the chance. I pulled out of the driveway and headed straight to my boss's office. He had already made the call to his lawyer the night before, said he'd handle the retainer and put me in touch with someone who gets results. I didn't argue. I just wanted someone sharp, someone who didn't blink. When I walked into the law office, I met with a man named Burke. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, no-nonsense type. He'd handled contracts and estate issues for people in my boss's circle. When he read over the prenup, his eyebrows raised. "You've got her nailed to the floor," he said. "Cheating clause is airtight." "Good," I said. "Do you have proof?" I handed him the phone. "Photos. Room number. Timestamped." He scrolled slowly, then looked up. "That's more than enough." We got to work. Signed the paperwork, filled out the filings, and set the wheels in motion. Burke said we'd have a court date within 60 days. Maybe sooner. When I walked back outside, the sunlight felt different. Sharper. Like the air had more weight to it. I didn't feel better, but I felt ready. The documents were handed over to her 3 days later, certified. But instead of responding properly, she stalled. First, she didn't file anything. Didn't show up at the lawyer's office she was supposedly working with. Then she started making excuses. Said she was still looking for the right legal counsel. Said she needed time to think, to process. Meanwhile, she stayed in the house. That first week after I handed her the papers, I went to stay with my buddy Jake. He and I served together and kept in touch after. He's got a spare room above his garage and didn't even ask for details. Just tossed me the key and said, "Stay as long as you need." She knew where I was. She knew I was serious. But that didn't stop her from pretending otherwise. She kept acting like the house was still hers. Would post photos from the backyard on her socials, sunsets, coffee mugs, that little flower box she always bragged about keeping alive. It was like she was playing house with a ghost. A few days into my stay at Jake's, she texted, "The bed feels empty without you. Please just talk to me." I didn't reply. Next day, "I know I messed up. I'm not asking you to forget it, just to hear me out." Still nothing from me. Week after that, "You always said we were stronger than this. You're really just gonna throw it all away." She started tagging me in old photos online. Stuff from anniversaries, from beach trips, things I'd almost forgotten. Then came the little memory videos. One had a song playing behind it that we used to slow dance to in the kitchen. But I wasn't biting. The more I ignored her, the more her tone changed. After about a month, the kindness ran out. She texted one night, "You can't just push me out like this. The house is mine too." Then the threats came. "You'll see. I'll get half. Everything you think you're keeping, you won't. My lawyer said I'm entitled." Thing is, her lawyer, if she even had one, clearly hadn't read the prenup. I never argued. Not once. When she said it was still our house, I just said, "Stay? Wait. Just don't touch my stuff." I didn't care if she watered the plants or watched TV in the living room. What I cared about was the safe in the garage, my tools, my keepsakes from overseas, my personal documents. I told Burke to make a record of everything I owned. Jake helped me move the more important stuff into a storage unit. She had no idea what I was doing in the background. While she was posting blurry sunrise selfies and pretending life hadn't collapsed, I was building a solid wall of paperwork and legal distance. I changed the passwords on all joint accounts, froze the ones we didn't need, put my name solely on the utilities, canceled the subscriptions I paid for. I even went ahead and rented a small place a few blocks from Jake's, just so I could have space of my own while the process played out. Brenda kept trying to play both sides. Some days she'd text me heart emojis, try to reminisce. Other days she'd say I was being cruel, that I was heartless, that I owed her something after 6 years. But I didn't know her a thing. I gave her love, loyalty, and a life that should have been more than enough. She traded that for a cheap thrill in a hotel room. She made her choice, and now she was realizing what that choice cost. I remember sitting in my new apartment, watching her post a story with some cryptic caption about rebuilding and becoming stronger. I just smiled. She was free to rebuild, but she'd be doing it without me, and without anything we built together. Court day came faster than I expected. 60 days after we filed, I walked through the courthouse doors in a clean suit, freshly shaved, and with a folder full of evidence under my arm. Burke had told me to be calm, professional, and say as little as possible. Let the paper trail speak. And we had plenty of paper. Photos. Timestamps. The prenup. Brenda showed up about late, looking like she'd walked out of a catalog shoot. Long coat, high heels, hair done just so. But beneath the makeup and fake poise, she looked worn. Pale, like she hadn't been sleeping right for weeks. Her eyes kept darting around, like she was looking for a way out that didn't exist. Her lawyer, a younger guy, sharp suit, slicked back hair, followed behind her carrying a briefcase way too big for whatever weak argument he had planned. He looked more like a finance bro than an attorney. Probably the only one she could afford after losing her sponsorships and savings to the fallout. When we got called in, I sat with Burke, hands folded, breathing steady. Brenda sat across from me, fidgeting. She didn't look at me. Couldn't. Every now and then, she'd whisper something to her lawyer and peek over like she thought maybe I'd changed my mind. Like maybe I'd get cold feet and drop the whole thing. She was wrong. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and a tighter schedule, read through our filings fast. She didn't ask a lot of questions. Just flipped through the pages, glanced at the prenup, then at the photos, then raised an eyebrow at Burke. "Evidence of adultery is clear?" she asked. Burke didn't even stand. "Crystal clear, Your Honor. We have visual documentation with timestamps, and both parties' signatures on the original prenuptial agreement, which includes a full forfeiture clause in the event of infidelity." The judge turned to Brenda's lawyer. "Anything you'd like to present in response?" He stood, cleared his throat like he was about to deliver a speech, and said, "Your Honor, we would argue that the prenup was signed under duress and that the defendant, my client, did not fully understand the consequences at the time." The judge blinked slowly, unimpressed. "Miss," she said, turning to Brenda, "were you forced to sign the document?" Brenda hesitated. You could see her thoughts trying to string something together. Her mouth opened, then closed. No, she finally said, voice small. The judge nodded and looked back at the lawyer. Then I don't see how duress applies. He tried to pivot. Talked about emotional stress, power imbalance, the pressure of being married to someone who traveled often. It all sounded like fluff. The judge let him talk for maybe 2 minutes before she interrupted. The agreement is valid. The evidence is substantial. This court upholds the prenuptial contract. Property division will proceed accordingly. The marital home, joint accounts, and all co-owned property are hereby awarded to the plaintiff. Just like that. Done. Brenda sat there stunned, like someone had just pulled the floor out from under her. Her mouth hung open for a second, then twisted like she might cry, but no tears came. The judge stood and left. We all got up slowly. Burke shook my hand and said, "Congratulations, Stefan." He patted me on the back and added, "Not a bad day for justice." Outside the courtroom, everything boiled over. Brenda stormed out ahead of us, stomped across the marble floor in those high heels, then turned on me like a tornado. "You think you're some kind of hero?" she shouted, eyes wild. People were staring. She didn't care. "You humiliated me. This is my life too. You think you can just erase me?" I didn't respond. She got closer, raised her hand like she might slap me. That's when courthouse security stepped in. 2 officers separated us fast. One of them warned her to back up, calm down, or she'd be cited. "I'll ruin you," she yelled as they pulled her a few steps back. "You're nothing without me." The officers exchanged a glance, and one of them started writing something on a pad. Brenda kept yelling until they handed her a ticket. "Disturbing the peace," the officer said. "You can contest it if you like, ma'am." She stood there holding the paper like she couldn't believe any of this was real. Meanwhile, I walked right past her. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Outside, the air felt colder. Clean. I sat in my truck for a second, engine off, just listening to the silence. Brenda left the courthouse about 5 minutes later. She didn't look at me. She just stomped to her old Prius, tossed her purse into the passenger seat, and peeled out of the lot. The only things she had left were that car and whatever was still in her name. A few personal items. Maybe a couple credit cards. The rest? Gone. I didn't feel triumphant, but I did feel free. After court, after the screaming and the cops, I figured I wouldn't see her again. But a few days later, I got a text from an unknown number that just said, "When can I come by to get the rest of my personal stuff?" It was her, of course. I hadn't blocked her, not yet. Thought maybe she'd leave things be after how everything ended, but apparently not. I stared at the message for a long minute, then typed back, "Don't come. I'll mail them." No response after that, at least not right away. I spent the next evening going through what little she had left. There wasn't much. I packed it all up in 2 medium boxes, labeled each with her name, and taped them tight. No notes. No message inside. Just her stuff and bubble wrap. I didn't want her coming back here. I didn't want her standing on the porch pretending to cry again. I didn't want to hear another word out of her mouth. It was done. She made her choices, and now I was making mine. I wrote my parents' address on the side of each box. Paid for express shipping. Sent her a message saying, "Your things will arrive at your folks' place by Friday. Don't come to the house." She responded within 10 minutes. "Why are you being so cold? After everything we've been through?" I didn't reply. That was the last real message I ever sent her. That night, I changed the locks. New deadbolt, new handle, rekeyed everything. Took down the little wreath she hung on the door last winter and threw it in the trash. It felt final. Clean. A few weeks passed. I settled into the silence. No footsteps in the hallway. No morning coffee waiting on the counter. No perfume in the air. I'd come home from work, crack open a beer, and sit on the porch in peace. I cooked my own dinners, cleaned at my own pace. The house felt bigger without her in it. And better. But she didn't disappear. She kept texting. Not every day, but often enough that I noticed. Sometimes it was guilt. "I'm so sorry, Stefan. I don't know why I did it. I wasn't thinking." Other times it was sentimental. "You were always my rock." I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Then came the ones fishing for sympathy. "I'm not doing well. I miss us. I miss who I was when I was with you." She even tried humor once. "Remember that camping trip where we got lost for hours and ended up eating granola bars for dinner?" I think about that all the time. We laughed so much. I didn't answer any of them. I left the house one morning to find a note tucked into the edge of my mailbox. No envelope. Just a scrap of paper, folded and damp from the dew. It said, You'll always be the one that got away. I tore it in half, tossed it in the trash can by the garage, and went on with my day. People asked about her sometimes, old friends, neighbors who didn't know the details. I just told them we divorced, left it at that. Most folks don't press, and the ones who do aren't worth explaining it to. I never saw her again after court. I don't know where she lives now. Maybe she stayed in the city. Maybe she moved out west like she used to talk about. Doesn't matter. I've been fixing up the house, little by little. Painted the kitchen cabinets. Put in a new fence out back. Got a dog, black lab mix named Hank. He keeps me company and doesn't lie. At night, sometimes I'll sit on the porch and hear the wind in the trees and think about how quiet everything is now. Not empty, just peaceful. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. Share your thoughts in the comments. Why do you think people throw away years of loyalty for moments of excitement? If you like the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.